Hey, what's up guys, Miles here. So English is a totally fun language to learn, and even though it's a relatively easy one, with more than 500,000 words and spelling that can distract and discourage even the most skilled learner, learning English fast can seem impossible. But I'm here to tell you that it isn't. Well, as long as you have the right strategy. But first, let's debunk two perpetuated myths about learning a foreign language in general and English in specific. Myth number one, talent is the cornerstone of learning English. Debunked. Learning English has absolutely nothing to do with talent. However, it does depend on perseverance and commitment. So if you're ready to go the extra mile, you're watching the right video. Myth number two, immersion in an English-speaking country, which is living in a country like the US or Canada, is the only way to learn English. Debunked. A drowning man cannot learn to swim. Thousands of people every year travel to English-speaking countries hoping they'll be able to learn English in no time, only to find themselves surrounded by native speakers who are just not willing to slow down. Don't get me wrong though, living in an English-speaking country does have its advantages, just not for basic or elementary learners. So with those two myths out of the way, these are my top tips on how to learn English fast. Tip number one, read everything you can get your hands on. Let me say that again. Read everything you can get your hands on. Novels, short stories, websites, your social media feed, WhatsApp, Instagram. Cereal boxes. If it's in English, read it. Why? Because this content is full of juicy new words and expressions that are essential to building your vocabulary arsenal, particularly in a language like English with so many words. But reading is not enough. You have to move on. Next, you have to tip number two, take note of new vocabulary. Now, this tip is a classic one for good reason. It works. Now, when learning, we often enjoy a word so much that forgetting it seems impossible. But trust me, not everything sticks the first time. Now, to fight this, get into the habit of carrying around a vocabulary notebook or using a note application on your phone. When you hear a word or when you see a word, write it down in a sentence. Now this will save you a lot of time, because when you return to that word again later, you won't have to ask yourself the question, what does that word mean again? Tip number three, and this is what I believe to be the most important one actually, subscribe to podcast and YouTube channels in English. Now, are you interested in politics, humor, cooking, English? With topics covering every interest imaginable, there is an English-speaking podcast or YouTube channel for you out there. Subscribe to a few and listen while you're driving or watch during the commute to school or work. First, you might find the native accent a little bit difficult, but stick with it. Soon you'll start understanding what you hear. Tip number four, ask a lot of questions. Now, curiosity may have killed the cat, but it also propelled the language learner to fluency. And as you're learning English, you begin to collect a mountain of questions. Do not sit on your doubts, resolve them. If you enrolled in a course, ask your teacher. That's what they're there for after all, right? But if you're learning alone, don't worry. You can find your answers on websites, in blogs. You can ask other learners. You can find your answers in language forums, or you can even ask your questions down there in the comment section below, and make sure to answer every single one of them. And finally, tip number five, don't kick yourself while you're down. I cannot stress this enough. Don't kick yourself while you're down. Now, when you start to feel like you're not making enough progress, which happens to all learners at some point, do not discourage yourself and tell yourself that you can't do this or you're not going to be able to learn English. In fact, get those words out of your vocabulary. They only blur your understanding of the process and convince you that your dreams of speaking English are impossible. In fact, tell yourself that you're learning English and you're making improvements every day. It's not easy, but it's worth it. For example, I'm so much better than I was 6 months ago. Now, if you enjoyed the video, please make sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you'll be notified whenever I upload a video. Signing out, Miles.